The company John Deere is making a big change to where they manufacture their farming equipment, leading to hundreds of US layoffs. The farm equipment giant is laying off workers at 3 US factories and shifting production to Mexico. I just noticed behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company. But as you know, they announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States. You won't believe what's happening with John Deere. The iconic American tractor giant, instead of expanding in its home state of Iowa, has decided to pour a staggering $55 million into a new plant in Mexico. This comes despite massive tariff threats from the Trump administration. In Iowa, some production lines have been halted. But across the border, John Deere is preparing to ramp up. This move comes right after President Donald Trump announced the possibility of imposing a 200% tariff. That figure could paralyze the entire agricultural supply chain. It could threaten tens of thousands of jobs. It could push many farmers into a corner during harvest season. In this context, John Deere has chosen to act quietly. The company is directly investing in Mexico to ensure production isn't disrupted. But the bigger question remains. Is this simply a strategic step to sidestep the tariff shock? Or is it a signal of a broader retreat in American agricultural manufacturing? Workers in agricultural states now face a harsh reality. Jobs can vanish overnight because of tariff policy. Companies like John Deere have few options left. They can stay and suffer losses. Or they can move and face criticism. Yet in the end, survival takes precedence. So who will bear the cost? Farmers? Workers? Or the US economy itself? This story is not just about a factory or a $55 million investment. It's a stark illustration of the dilemma American corporations are grappling with under the surge of protectionism. Join us as we dig into the hidden calculations behind this controversial decision in today's video. And don't forget to subscribe to the Discover Abroad. Hit the notification bell and stay tuned for more economic and political stories shaping North America's future. John Deere, a name synonymous with sprawling fields and massive farm machinery, has just stunned the market by announcing a $55 million deal to build a new factory in Nuevo León, Mexico. The facility is set to begin operations in 2026. It will target the Latin American market. Major agricultural exporters like Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia are increasingly hungry for modern farming equipment. For decades, John Deere has been tied to heavy-duty 6R and 7R tractors and combine harvesters. These have been built in the heart of America's industrial belt, from Illinois to Iowa. But the company insists that expanding into Mexico does not mean abandoning its core US production base. In fact, products shipped from Mexico into the US accounted for less than 5% of Deere's total sales across fiscal years 2023 and 2024. A company spokesperson made it clear. The new facility will not replace or disrupt any key production lines currently operating in the United States. This means that high-horsepower tractors, harvesters, and other central farm machinery will continue to be manufactured in America. Instead, the Mexican plant will focus on simpler segments. These include cab assembly, compact loaders, and small multi-purpose machines. This is John Deere's way of leveraging more competitive production costs. At the same time, it boosts the company's edge in serving Latin American markets. Choosing Mexico as a springboard was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. According to a study by Ariston in 2023, Latin America consumed nearly 259,000 agricultural machines. That figure is projected to exceed 338,000 units by 2029. This represents an annual growth rate of almost 4.6%. Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia account for the largest share of this market. This creates an opportunity that few manufacturers could afford to ignore. To strengthen its advantage, John Deere has chosen Mexico. John Deere has also invested in building a dedicated transport corridor at the Laredo-Columbia border crossing in Tamaulipas. This significantly cuts the time it takes to get equipment into the hands of customers in South America. It is clear this is a strategic move by John Deere. The company is maintaining a strong domestic production base while smartly extending its reach into a rapidly expanding region. In a climate where trade barriers can shift overnight, diversifying and establishing another production hub in Mexico is seen as key. This helps Deere maintain cost advantages and ensure timely deliveries to international clients. President Donald Trump's threat of a 200% tariff was widely interpreted as a direct response to John Deere's expansion into Mexico. The announcement immediately ignited debate in both political circles and among the public. According to Reuters, within hours of the announcement, Deere stock slid more than 1.5% in after-hours trading. This underscored how sensitive the market is to tariff shocks. In reality, the bulk of Deere's flagship products continue to be built in plants located in Illinois, Iowa, and Georgia. These products generate more than three-quarters of the company's North American revenue. Moreover, the company has pledged to invest another $20 billion into U.S. facilities and technology over the next decade. This is a long-term commitment to reinforce domestic manufacturing. Yet for the thousands of engineers, mechanics, and multi-generational workers in Iowa or Illinois, the news of a new assembly line in Mexico felt like a double blow. Fears over job security were coupled with anxiety about the future. John Deere insists that pausing a small fraction of output, less than 5%, does not amount to shutting down or eliminating core production lines. Still, even minor adjustments in output or the possibility of workforce reductions are enough to spark concerns over job security. As the first shipments of compact loaders roll out of Nuevo León bound directly for South America, a looming question arises. Can John Deere still uphold its Made in America legacy and protect its domestic workforce? Or will it ultimately become a prime symbol of globalization, where profit takes precedence over stability and the trust of workers? In the unforgiving world of political and economic gamesmanship, John Deere has now become the center of a major test. Should it hold on to its traditional identity? Or should it accept being swept along by the wheels of globalization in order to survive? John Deere is being pulled between two opposing forces. On one side, there is a responsibility to remain tied to American farmers and its build-at-home legacy. On the other, there is pressure to cut costs and expand into international markets amid relentless tariff battles and volatile politics. Every move the company makes is under scrutiny. Its decisions affect not only Deere's future but also reverberate across the entire global food supply chain. The pressure is mounting as U.S. production costs soar, threatening Deere's long-standing competitive edge. Average manufacturing wages have climbed to about $27 an hour, according to Investopedia. This is dozens of times higher than wages in many developing economies for labor-intensive plants. This wage level quickly becomes a massive burden. Worse still, the wave of mass resignations during 2021 to 2022 left many lines short of engineers, mechanics, and skilled workers. This forced companies to pay more just to retain their core workforce. Meanwhile, competitors from Asia are steadily turning up the pressure. Kubota in Japan and Mahindra in India continue to release products at lower price points. This makes it difficult for Deere to maintain its edge. For example, a popular Kubota subcompact tractor sells for around $12,000 to $18,000 US. A similar Deere model typically starts at $15,000 to $30,000 US. On average, that's $20,000 to $30,000, about 30% more expensive. This gap forces Deere to reassess its entire cost strategy if it wants to defend market share on its own turf in the United States. With Mexico just across the border, relocating part of production has become almost inevitable. Labor costs there range from $4.50 to $5.10 per hour. That is up to 70% to 80% lower than in the US. At the same time, the Mexican government has heavily invested in cross-border logistics infrastructure. Highways, dry ports, and rail terminals are all designed to support near-market manufacturing. This advantage enables Deere to accelerate cabin assembly, mini-loader production, and other compact machinery segments that are less technologically complex. It also ensures timely delivery and competitive pricing. Deere is not alone. Other American giants like Caterpillar and Ford have also openly considered boosting production capacity in Mexico or other low-cost regions. The picture is clear. To survive and retain a foothold in global supply chains, U.S. companies are increasingly forced to seriously weigh shifting away from traditional domestic manufacturing lines. John Deere now faces a daunting challenge. How can it balance its Made in USA legacy, a point of pride for generations, with the pressure to cut costs and scale up globally? The company's disclosure that 5% to 10% of its production may be shifted to Mexico has raised concerns over short-term revenues. It has also cast doubts on the long-term quality image of the brand. Almost immediately, President Donald Trump issued threats of import tariffs as high as 200% to block the move. The market reacted instantly. Deere stock slipped more than 1.5% in the very next trading session. This underscored investor sensitivity to the prospect of rising import costs. Experts warn that if protectionism is applied in an extreme fashion, tariffs could become a double-edged sword. They could ultimately harm the very industries they are supposed to protect. Over the long term, John Deere has pledged to invest $20 billion over the next decade. This money will go toward modernizing facilities, upgrading technology in the US, and training and retaining skilled workers. The company is also banking on automation and artificial intelligence to boost productivity. Yet this ambitious plan requires both time and resources. Meanwhile, Asian and European rivals continue to leverage lower costs to secure major contracts across Latin America. That region is projected to consume over 338,000 agricultural machines by 2029. It is growing nearly 5% annually. The market is too large a prize to ignore. On the risky chessboard of economics shaped by costs, tariffs, and global competition, Deere is being forced to make a survival choice. Should it stick with its US-made identity and steep price tags? Or should it expand low-cost operations abroad and sacrifice part of its heritage? Whichever path it takes, the impact will extend far beyond the company itself. The consequences will ripple across the food supply chain. They will affect the livelihoods of tens of thousands of workers. They will also test the trust of farmers who have relied on the nearly 200-year-old brand. At this sensitive juncture, the labor cost gap between the US and Mexico is no longer just a number. It is a stark symbol of the transformation sweeping American agriculture. As political debate intensifies, Donald Trump has wasted no time turning the John Deere story into the centerpiece of a large-scale trade confrontation. On live television, he called John Deere's decision to shift part of its production to Mexico a betrayal of American workers.